So, good morning from my side to S&P Transformation World 2025 Day 2. I got introduced already, Ralf Scherer from BMW. I'm leading the SAP transformation there. And before I start talking about that, and usually in these presentations you introduce the company a little bit, so I'm going to bring to you the nitty-gritties of the balance sheet for the next 3 hours now. No, don't worry. Going to talk a little bit about cars, actually. Since my boss said if you have to go there, you have to sell a few, so the order forms are at the exit. But anyway, so I want to talk about what drives us. And obviously, we're all reading the newspapers, so there's a lot of external and internal factors that are driving us right now. First and foremost, actually on the external side, it's obviously the world becoming more and more multipolar, more and more disconnected in some ways. And that obviously leads to challenges not only in the supply chain, but also on the product side. We all know that famous assistant now that starts beeping once you just go 1 kilometer too fast, you know. And in other areas, you have other regulations, different customers have different demands. So it becomes increasingly difficult to create products that are globally working. Obviously, tariffs, we all read the news, right, is a big topic right now. And that then reflects obviously also on the internal side, but also infrastructure topics. Coming a little bit to our home turf here, you know, separation of the China IT landscape is, I think, something that we all have to deal with in one way or the other if we are active there. But also increasingly in other areas, we have that topic. Not to forget that out of the 170 about legal entities that we have within the group, more than 60 are regulated in one way or the other financially, because financial services is actually a big part of our business. So some of them are banks, some are not, some are regulated in other ways, so that's also affecting us in big ways. So that reflects obviously internally in big changes, big challenges in the profitability. Creating pressure on us in the IT as well, obviously on the cost side, to become more and more efficient, despite having obviously to integrate topics like AI, also obviously the hot potatoes that we're all dealing with into our IT landscape, but also into our products. And coming to that topic, obviously we're all busy with the launch of we call the Neue Klasse, completely new product generation that I just want to share some information about because I thought you're interested in maybe, and it's also a good wake up in the morning. So what is the Neue Klasse? The Neue Klasse is a completely new product generation that will shape the BMW product portfolio for the next 15 years at least. It's strikingly different from anything else that we did before. It's strikingly different from the design. First and foremost, what you will all note is that all chrome will be replaced by light. That's one design principle there. It's 100% electric, so it's a completely electric-only platform. It's not just built to assemble efficiently, it's also built to deassemble efficiently. That's a very key new design paradigm that we have to deal with, because we obviously always have to think about what happens at the end of the life cycle. And it's strikingly digital. And the digital experience is most visible in the user interface. That's also completely new. And the first thing that sort of springs into your eye literally when you sit in this car is the panoramic vision. That's basically a pillar-to-pillar head-up display that you can freely configure with apps, 6 different apps. In the middle, you always have the digital AI assistant. And it's really cool because you can sort of touch on your screen and then you can sort of shoot out the apps on the head-up display. So the screen, well, cars have a screen right now. It's also the whole UI there is new. We also have on top of the panoramic vision, there will be the normal head-up display, but also in a very much upgraded version. Basically, that will give you a 3D experience driving on the street. So when you have to turn, you will see the arrow where you have to turn exactly on the line where you are and where you're looking at. Things like this. And then obviously a very new, but still with real buttons, I promise, multifunctional steering wheel. So how does that then turn into IT? Because we are not just a company dealing with a big business IT, and I come to that in a second, but we are actually also an IT company and a software company. So if you go back like 15 years or so, you see that it's like a 7 Series had between 250 and 300 separate control units. Obviously, that is totally unsustainable in an age of over-the-air update, and we were actually the first company that shipped out all cars already, I think more than 15 years ago, 20 years ago almost, with a built-in SIM card for mobile access. So that enabled us very, very early to be over-the-air update enabled. But coming back to that, we will reduce this to 4 units in the car, not to 1. That also creates bottlenecks and is difficult from our point of view, from a sort of an SLA point of view, but to 4. And there will be 1 unit for the automated driving functions. There will be 1 unit actually handling the whole infotainment and user interface. There will be 1 for the basic functions of the car. That's quite obvious. And there will be 1, because we are BMW, for the driving dynamics. That's actually the biggest one. We call it the Heart of Joy, so it actually has a nickname right now. And it brings up the car to a new level. Overall, it's 1,000 software modules, it's 20 gigabytes of software, and more than 500 million lines of code. So we can think about, I don't know, how much lines of code does Keanu have, Jens? No idea? 5 trillion lines. So it's a substantial software product. That's the message, right? So we are in the software industry, outside even of business IT, and with our car. And obviously, this car creates a whole lot of data, right? That goes into our data lakes. That helps us then analyze the cars and also enable new business scenarios, for example. So maybe just like a spoiler of what we are thinking about or what we are working on. Actually, I mean, cars shouldn't break down right now. Sometimes this happens. Sometimes cars start having problems. Technical products can have problems. So right now, we think it's pretty cool already that you get a message on your display and say, your water pump may break down within the next 3 weeks, sort of based on predictive maintenance. So please go to the garage to have a look at it and change it. But that's not where we want to have it. Where we want to have it is that the car realizes that this will happen. It sends out a message to the after sales. The pump gets ordered, gets shipped to the dealer. We know the dealer of the guy that drives the car. And the message that he gets on the car is, please go to your dealer. Your water pump will break. The pump is there already. These are your 3 following choices of appointments. Please select one. So that's sort of the level where we want to get it. But coming back to the Heart of Joy. So obviously we have developers that think, what can you do with a car, and not with millions of euros or billions of euros, but with the components that are in development right now, and sort of what is the max you can get out of it. Also obviously thinking a little bit about how cars will look like in the electric age. And what they came up with is it's more than a prototype, but we still call it a prototype. It's the Vision Dynamic Experience. Has 1,300 horsepower, and more strikingly, I think 18,000 Newton meters of torque. And how this looks like, I brought a quick movie, so film up, please.
go. I love it! This car is unbelievable. What a crazy machine.
So, are we back to the presentation? Thank you. So now, let's get to the nitties and gritties. Obviously, we do have an IT strategy. How could it be otherwise? And our IT strategy that we're always looking at is basically built on several pillars. First of all, it's a bunch of very general, what we say, strategic directions. And it's not a strategy that sort of we wrote once and then it's there, but it's more sort of a work in progress. So we are updating it annually and sort of are refocusing it. What's very important there is the idea of platforms, that we want to have our business IT to be built on a very, very limited number of enterprise-wide platforms, one of them being SAP. We want to reduce complexity. Complexity is our enemy, with globally harmonized processes built on these standardized platforms. We are in a big, what one would call insourcing project. So we are building up our own IT development hubs around the world. Right now we do have 6. The most important for SAP is in South Africa, with almost 2,000 people. And then we are more and more sort of insourcing our own IT capabilities. And obviously, we are always trying to industrialize new technologies like AI, so it always has to work on scale. That's what is very important. And how does this reflect sort of in the architecture that you can see in the middle? So basically, we have our infrastructure layer. In the bottom, that is right now, we have a dedicated go-to-cloud strategy, what we call cloud by default. That does not mean that's not 100% necessarily, but it's by default. That's where we want to get. Based on that, we do have our technical platforms, which is basically our DevOps platform, SAP, our analytics and data platform, and now also AI platform. On top of that, we have what we call a domain as a service. That means that we want to have a catalog, or we have a catalog of published APIs that everybody can use freely around the company, to have a dedicated communication interaction in between these different software components. And then we have defined end user touch points, also in a very limited number of technologies. On top of that, we have our processes, and they are very much organized by the corporate functions. So we have finance, purchasing, HR, what we call OTD, that is production, research and development, and sales and after sales, and financial services. And for the implementation, we have our strategy wheel, where we say, where do we want to go? What are our focus topics? Right now, this is AI. This is also sustainability. It's always security, obviously, how secure are our applications, and so forth. So that's sort of our North Star that we're working towards. How do we do that? We are quite a big organization, actually. So we have 11,500 IT employees at BMW in 30 countries, and we have 5,300 applications. So when I will come to the number of SAP systems, this sounds a lot already, but you always have to put that in context of that's like not like 10% sort of the show, or 20% of the show. And obviously, the biggest supplier of data to our company are our cars, right? I mean, when 15 years ago, we got a little bit of car data when somebody brought the car to the mechanic, and then they read out the computer and the content was transferred back. But right now, it's sending data every day. So that's also what we have to deal with. And here you can also see our IT hubs that I mentioned, and also you can see our tech offices. So we also have a network of tech offices around the globe that basically do tech scouting, do POCs, connect to universities, and sort of then try to bring new ideas into the IT and the company. A little bit on our history with SAP and SNP. So SAP customer for 33 plus years right now. Basically never went on R2. Started with R3, but in the early days. And then sort of gradually this thing evolved. One thing we always like to do was co-innovations. That's the secret trick, you know. Clean core is one thing, but if you convince SAP to put your things in the standard, you're pretty standardized. So that's also, you know, a concept that we like very much. And also with SNP, we have quite a long history. We started out in 2013 when we split out the Brazil system. This was sort of the first carve out, and then our very, very famous split out of the BBA landscape a couple years later. And now, obviously, with the transformation that I'm going to talk about in a while in a much, much larger scale, but it also dates a while back. So I don't know how large SNP was in 2013, but I think a lot smaller than today. So this evolved also quite a bit. Coming back to our strategy slide, so then if we sort of look how SAP relates to that, we pretty much see that obviously it reflects a whole lot on the left side, where we say we want to use the SAP standard to the max. We want to have globally harmonized processes. So basically the idea is that if you are in a BMW plant, let's say in Dingolfing, and something falls on your head and you get knocked out and we drag you and wake you up in Spartanburg, you don't realize that you're anywhere else. Sort of that is sort of the idea. Yeah? And I mentioned already our DevOps hubs relates to SAP as well. More than 2,000 people in South Africa, but also in Portugal, and now increasingly in India and Romania are working on SAP topics. SAP is part of our platform strategy. Infrastructure target landscape is RISE, very clearly. We decided for RISE in 2022, well, around early 2023. And since then, we are ramping it up. We only go on RISE with S4 in our target landscape. You know, we keep the old systems still in the data center, mainly for the reason that they're mostly on Oracle. So we do not even want to add the costs of a database conversion there. And SAP is also a big part of our analytics platform. So right now we do have 3 large BWs, about 130 terabytes in total, I would say. So that's also pretty big. And they also have to move forward to BW4 and to DataSphere. We do have a central master data backbone, so we would have a dedicated SAP system that only basically distributes master data. And then we have a very dedicated Fiori concept now with the S4 transformation, but we're also working with SAP in other areas. So right now, for example, you can use the mobile start app, brand it your own way, and republish your rebranded mobile start app in the App Store, sort of that we can claim some ownership for this idea, I think. So that's what we are using, and also SAC is a big topic in our user interaction, not just for reporting, but also for planning. Planning is a very important part there. So that's what we are working on. And then on top, we have our initiatives, and that helps me jump sort of on the next slide. So how do we do the SAP transformation? We do have a mixed greenfield brownfield approach, meaning that we identified a bunch of systems that we did not want to invest too much in them. We just do basically a lift and shift. So we do an in-place conversion in one step from ECC on Oracle in the data center to S4 in RISE in one step. In-place conversion. And then for the rest, we do greenfield. So we have a certain number of greenfield initiatives. One for global finance template. We come from 15 different implementations of SAP Finance in one sort of shape or form. We want to go to one, or at least to as little as possible. We have then a new template for after sales that serves 40 countries, and also a new planning logic there. A new template for the plants, so one unified template for all the plants, including China. We have a big analytics and reporting project, integrated financial planning and reporting. And then, by force, because it's discontinued, we also have to replace our big SRM system with S4 procurement. That's also then the fifth project, and the sixth I mentioned already is our move to RISE factory. That includes then the whole handling of RISE, but also the brownfield migrations. You do not have to memorize that slide. The only thing it should tell you is that it's a lot and it's complicated and it takes a long time. So these are all the milestones, the major milestones. You know, one of these little dots there is something like implementing S4 in a plant like Spartanburg with 600,000 cars a year. So that's one of these dots. There's many more. It also shows you that actually we've been underway for quite some time. The slide actually should start 2019, but for whatever purposes of all fitting it in one slide, we then sort of at one point in time decided that we just look 2 years back. What's the point? The point is obviously behind every one of these dots that's in the Greenfield initiative also is a data migration. So at one point in time, we thought makes no sense that they're all reinventing the wheel. Let's look for a partner that handles all these data migrations for us, right? As a one-stop shop, one concept, one factory, coming from craftsmanship to industrialized working. That's what we like. And so we started partnering with S&P, and now S&P is handling all these data migrations for us in a dedicated data migration factory. So a couple of them they did already. I would say 90% still outstanding, no pressure, Jens, but that Sheila mentioned that yesterday. So it goes on until 2030, because that's the way it works. Like, I would like to do some plants earlier, but I can't. I don't have a window. I need, for Spartanburg, I need a 20-day downtime window to implement the new template. So also mainly because of the complex EWM logic that we will have in the future, we'll need to run the assembly belt empty in order to change the system. I do not have that before the end of 2029. So I have to wait, because there's always new cars coming. The plant is running 24/7, so there's no time to implement. Or nobody is willing to decide to stop this plant and to take 1,500 cars a day times 20, 30,000 cars out of production, right? Nobody makes this decision. So that's the point. So anyway, we decided on this transformation factory, and how does that work? So we agreed with S&P basically to have a catalog of defined services, of defined T-shirt sizes, of defined content. And right now it's very easy. We sit together, we are forecasting when is which milestone, when do we call off basically which service from the catalog in which T-shirt size. And then basically S&P operationalizes it and steers out the factory in the background, and we have a one-stop shopping front end to S&P that basically then deals with everything and shields the complexity from us that is inside the factory. That's very good and very convenient. And now for the first migrations, worked very well. We talked about Regensburg yesterday, 1,500 cars a day. Also, we don't want to lose out on that. So that worked perfectly. Good, great. And right now, no pressure on Jens. In September, he has to migrate Munich. And this go live is crucial for the go live of the Neue Klasse. So, because we only have the Neue Klasse functionalities in the new template, not in the old template. So this has to work. Otherwise, we will have a problem ramping up the Neue Klasse. And the passenger car you saw, the sedan, it's going to be built in Munich. The SUV you saw there is going to be built in Debrecen, in the new plant in Hungary, which is live on the new template already. So that's the good part of the story. Are we happy with this? Yes. Is it enough? No. What's the problem? Problem is obviously if you look at the current economic situation, if we look at the remaining timeline, and if we look at the costs that are behind the remaining timeline, it's over-dominated by rollout costs. And why don't we like it? Obviously, because they're costs. Car manufacturers don't like costs. Other topic is it's in our way of bringing innovation and dealing with other things that we thought are maybe then have a better business value. So we know that we cannot shorten the transformation per se, as I explained, because certain dates are where they are, but we want to shorten and cut down on the cost of a specific rollout. That's absolutely necessary. So we went to SAP 1.5 years ago already and said, hey guys, this can't be so difficult. You know, we are coming from an ECC, that's SAP. We want to go to an S4, that's SAP. We know the old template, we built the new template already. Template building, always a pain, but done already. We did the first rollout already. We even did the first migration already. And now we're talking about the second and the fourth and the fifth one. It can't be so difficult sort of to determine what is the delta on the left side, sort of what is the rules all the rules that we have already to bring old to new, and then sort of determining what's the delta on the right side. And how do you support that by tools and software? Because SAP is historically good in building shiny new castles on the hill. The road construction to this castle is sometimes a little bit of a discussion. So, but we would have to run it like a factory, right? Getting away from craftsmanship to industry, as I said. So then we sat together with SAP, and then they said, but we bought all these nice new tools. You know, we bought LinaX, and we bought Signavio, and now we're buying WalkMe, and so forth. And I said, yeah, we know, but that's not the point. Because each individual tool is nice, but it's not holistic. It doesn't work together yet. So we sat down with them and basically asked all of our initiatives sort of what would you need in order to have a significant leap forward, you know? And then we sort of mapped that on the SAP Activate method, on the faces there, mapped it down onto the tools, sat down with the tool developers, and said, what is the delta? What is missing? All right? Just one example, in Signavio Process Insights, I can create process model on the one side, I can create it on the other side. It even now finds together which process belongs to which process, but it cannot automatically determine the deviations in the process, let alone can it automatically, although it has all the documents behind, determine the deviations in the parameters used that would easily translate into missing migration rules, for example, from our point of view. And once we would have that and know exactly for which data elements, which parameters are missing in the next rollout, we theoretically, if we would know, that would not have just the new migration rules, but we could also automatically update our test cases in Tricentis to match that, right? So a bunch of tools is not enough. That's the story. We have to fill some gaps. We talked very intensively to SAP about how they fill these gaps, and what you see there is actually the committed SAP development roadmap right now. And I'm allowed to show this picture. The promised efficiencies we still have to validate, obviously, once it's finished. As you can see, AI plays a certain role in it. And obviously on the migration part, we would like it also to be integrated, like we would the whole suite to be integrated, because as I tried to explain, each finding in one phase has to be used in this consecutive phase, otherwise it's of no value. So obviously we also went to S&P and then started thinking about how the S&P portfolio sort of could relate into that, and that will be then the next round of discussion now. And just to bring you an idea, sort of, where sort of S&P could fit in there in the future. But that's now also next round of discussions, and my time is over. So I hope you enjoyed the presentation. Thanks a lot. If there's any questions, feel free to contact me.